After I completed my mission to capture the crazy crown prince, I died in his arms. In the next world, I played the role of the kidnapped female lead in a wife-chasing abusive novel. Unexpectedly, the kidnapper blindfolded me and held me tightly. It's been a long time, my yang yang. What should I call you now? Sister-in-law? The moment the blindfold was removed, the face in front of me was identical to that of the crazy crown prince. I didn't even have time to break into a cold sweat. The warehouse door was suddenly kicked open by the male lead who had finally arrived. Mission to capture Rongjing complete. The host will be transported to the next world in 24 hours. The system's excited voice echoed in my mind. I looked toward the jade steps outside the palace doors, where the golden-edged rays of dawn dazzled my eyes. Rongjing stood against the light, his long sword still dripping with blood. This sword had just been pulled from the old emperor's chest. Tomorrow, Rongjing would ascend the throne and become the 7th ruler of the Great Yao dynasty, and I would quietly leave at the moment he donned the emperor's crown. Host, you're not falling in love with him and wanting to stay, are you? There were others who completed their missions and fell in love with their targets, insisting on staying, but their endings were all tragic. Annoyed by the noise, I waved my hand to mute the system. Yang Yang, what are you thinking about? You look so serious. Rongjing suddenly stood in front of me, startling me. I shook my head and tentatively asked him, if one day I'm no longer here, you. Before I could finish, Rongjing scooped me up by the waist. His expression was grim, his entire presence radiating hostility as he strode into the inner chamber, throwing me onto the golden canopy bed. His scorching breath fell on my ear. Rongjing, almost trembling, roared, Shen Yang! You promised you would never leave me! But I was someone who excelled at lying. Before I fainted, I kept thinking, given Rongjing's current obsession with devouring me whole, I couldn't imagine how mad he'd go when he found out I was dead tomorrow. As the sky gradually brightened, Rongjing kissed my forehead over and over again. Only then did he rise to go to the Great Hall and receive the minister's homage. The system kept chattering in my ear. Host! Host! Time's up! We have to go now! I floated in the air, my gaze falling on the body lying in the center of the bed. I watched as the once vibrant, rosy face slowly lost its vitality. Suddenly, there was a loud bang. The palace doors were forcefully thrown open. Rongjing stumbled in, his hair crown askew, but he didn't care. He staggered toward me, throwing himself onto the bed where I lay. Holding my lifeless body close, he pressed his face against mine, calling my name repeatedly. Yang Yang, Yang Yang, you're just asleep, right? It's okay. I'll wait for you to wake up. Strange, wasn't the male lead supposed to be in the middle of his coronation? Shen Yang! The heart-wrenching scream pierced my eardrums. It left me disoriented even as I was transported to the next world. Miss, we'll be closing in 10 minutes. Is the person you're waiting for still coming? I was stunned for a few seconds before realizing the waiter was talking to me. At the same time, fragments of the new plot flashed quickly through my mind. Following the plot's guidance, I put on a sorrowful expression and said sadly, "He probably won't come. I'm sorry to have bothered you." I squeezed out 2 tears and ran out of the restaurant, crying. A flash of lightning lit up the night sky, followed by a torrential downpour. Standing by the roadside, I took out my phone and called the male lead. Fu Rongyu, it's raining outside. Can you come pick me up? I'm at no time. His cold voice held not a trace of emotion. I walked alone in the heavy rain, utterly miserable. Actually, I could have taken a cab back, but the plot wouldn't allow it. The Fu residence was brightly lit. I pushed the door open, shivering and hugging my shoulders to fend off the cold. On a nearby sofa, Fu Rongyu rested his chin on his hand, his gaze fixed intently on the woman beside him. So, he could smile, and even show a gentle expression, but whenever he faced me, he was always cold and indifferent. As I moved closer, I overheard the woman sitting next to Fu Rongyu, cautiously tugging at his arm as she asked, you, I heard from my mom that you have a fiancé. Fu Rongyu responded with a casual, The woman's eyes immediately welled up with tears. You said you'd wait for me. No one stays in the same place forever. Whether you believe it or not, I had my reasons. Despite his harsh words, Fu Rongyu unconsciously pulled her into his arms, soothing her in a gentle voice. I sneered inwardly. What a trashy plot. This world was set in a wife-chasing novel, filled with intense, tragic love. Fu Rongyu was my fiancé. As for the woman now crying in his arms, she was his long-cherished white moonlight who had returned from abroad, the daughter of the Fu family's housekeeper, Lin Songya. And I was Shi Shuang, the unfortunate female lead of this wife-chasing abusive novel, hopelessly in love with the male lead. It was time to deliver my line. What are you two doing? The moment Fu Rongyu looked up and saw me, his smile instantly vanished. Lin Songya froze for a moment, then pushed him away, wiping her tears as she ran upstairs. I walked up to Fu Rongyu, my voice trembling. Fu Rongyu, as long as you say there's nothing between you two, I'll believe you. As you can see, Fu Rongyu brushed past me without even a glance. Did he really think that made him look cool? The garden at the Fu residence was filled with roses. Whenever I had nothing to do, I would go there to trim the branches. Lin Songya specifically came to find me. So you're Shi Shuang? She looked me up and down, the disdain in her eyes completely unmasked. Do you know why there are only roses in the Fu residence's garden? Because I like them. Fu Rongyu planted them for me. My hand holding the scissors trembled slightly. If it weren't for the penalty of losing 10 times the points for harming an NPC, I would have loved to slap her. With a snap, I cut off the fullest rose on the branch and tossed it to the ground. But I'm his fiancée now. Lin Songya's face turned red as she glared at me. I won't let you get your way. At that moment, Fu Rongyu's tall figure appeared in the distance. Lin Songya quickly grabbed my hand and swung it toward her own face, then dramatically collapsed to the ground. Fu Rongyu rushed over, scooping her up with a look of panic. Songya, are you okay? Lin Songya curled up in his arms, shaking her head, tears shimmering in her eyes. It's my fault. I shouldn't have come here. I'll book a flight back to France tomorrow. You, please don't blame Miss Shi. She didn't mean to hit me. She's just like me. She loves you too much. The green tea vibe was almost enough to blow the top of my head off, but Fu Rongyu ate it up, glaring at me as if his eyes were knives. As long as I'm here, no one can force you to leave, unless she doesn't want to stay at the Fu residence anymore. Lin Songya smirked at me when Fu Rongyu wasn't looking. I needed to have a talk with the system later. This wife-chasing abusive novel was too stupid. They should at least give me more points for dealing with this nonsense. Fu Rongyu feared I might bully Lin Songya again, so wherever he went, he made sure to bring her along. The entire circle was buzzing with the news that Fu Rongyu now had a beautiful secretary by his side. The two were inseparable, and their relationship seemed anything but ordinary. Just when I had a few days of peace, the plot kicked back in. The mother I had in this world called me, demanding 20 million yuan. Mom, I really don't have that much money. Don't think I don't know about the trust fund your dad left you. After Dad's accident, that money was frozen. The Fu family is so wealthy. Ask Fu Rongyu for it. You have 3 days. Either give me 20 million, or I'll tell Fu Rongyu about that incident. Then we'll see if you can still be the fiancé of the Fu Corporation's president. With that, she hung up. Cursing the plot under my breath, I dialed Fu Rongyu's number. Where are you? I need to talk to you about something important. There was a brief silence on the other end before he uttered 2 words. Lanshan. Lanshan was the most extravagant club in S City. Only the rich and powerful frequented such a place. When I opened the door, I saw Fu Rongyu sitting at the head of the table, lazily holding a cigarette, with Lin Songya nestled in his arms. He didn't even bother to look up when he saw me. What do you want? I walked up to him, struggling to get the words out. Can you give me 20 million yuan? Sure, pour me a drink. When did Fu Rongyu become so agreeable? Just as I picked up the bottle and was about to pour the wine into his glass, his long, slender fingers blocked the rim. Not like that. You need to. Kneel. I wondered if I had misheard him. In the last world, the only person I had ever knelt to was the emperor. And now in the modern world, he wanted me to kneel? Don't just stand there, sis-in-law. Hurry up and pour the drink for Brother Yu. Better do it fast, or Brother Yu might get angry and not give you the money. Fu Rongyu exhaled a ring of smoke, his face expressionless as he looked at me. Fine. I was just a diligent worker trying to get the job done. If I didn't follow the plot, I wouldn't complete the mission, and without completing the mission, there would be no points. So, I resigned myself to kneeling at Fu Rongyu's feet, my hands trembling as I poured the wine for him. Fu Rongyu picked up the glass and sneered, "Shi Shuang, you've poured too much." With a slight tilt of his wrist, the icy liquid poured down over my head. It was midsummer, and I was only wearing a thin dress. The water quickly soaked through, spreading across my chest. In Fu Rongyu's indifferent eyes, I saw myself as nothing more than a clown. This male lead, he must really be sick in the head. Someone whistled, "Wow, sis-in-law, you've got quite the figure. How about you come with me instead? I'll give you money." Upon hearing this, I looked at him and asked, "Are you serious?" He hadn't expected that and was so startled he quickly shut his mouth, too afraid to say anything more. Fu Rongyu, now irritated, tugged at his collar. He pulled out a card and flung it at my face. "Get out!" I said a quick "thank you" and hurriedly got up from the floor. Out of the corner of my eye, I saw Fu Rongyu take a sip of wine, then pull Lin Songya in for a forceful kiss, his hand pressing against the back of her head. Lin Songya pretended to resist, her voice coquettish. "Don't do that, Ayu, there's someone else here." Fu Rongyu glanced at me indifferently, then casually slipped Lin Songya's dress off her shoulder. My last sight of that scene was Lin Songya boldly straddling Fu Rongyu's lap. She clung to his neck, kissing him passionately. Disgusting pair. Lin Songya openly moved into Fu Rongyu's bedroom. He never allowed me to step foot inside. Whenever I passed by, the partially closed door would let out sounds that were enough to make anyone blush. Even when the antique clock at the end of the hallway struck midnight, their activities still hadn't ceased. To cope with this, I deliberately used Fu Rongyu's card to buy a pair of headphones for 9,999 yuan. They worked wonderfully, allowing me to sleep peacefully. Whenever Fu Rongyu wasn't home, Lin Songya would wear off-the-shoulder dresses and deliberately parade in front of me. She wanted me to see the marks on her neck. She wanted to flaunt that she had won both Fu Rongyu's heart and his body. I despised this behavior of hers, because I had to play along, showing either sadness, heartbreak, or utter despair. To avoid Lin Songya, I started going out frequently. Of course, the real purpose of going out was to trigger the next part of the plot. I was about to be kidnapped. Finally, on my way to the restroom after getting a stomachache from drinking coffee for the 10th time, the kidnappers arrived, and I was kidnapped. The kidnappers took me to an abandoned warehouse and blindfolded me. I heard footsteps gradually fading away, only to return shortly after. Something cold was pressed against my ear. From inside, Fu Rongyu's impatient voice came through. "Speak." I tried my best to sound panicked. "Fu Rongyu, I've been kidnapped." "Oh, really? The kidnapper should be right beside you, right? This woman is yours now, do whatever you want with her." The line went dead, leaving me with the sound of a busy signal. Fu Rongyu had hung up. "Miss Shi, isn't you the fiancé of President Fu?" A voice, altered by a voice changer, asked me with curious interest. I remained calm and tried to reason with him. Fu Rongyu already has a new lover. If you think you can use me to threaten him, it's impossible. He has a new lover. You must be very heartbroken, right? Why was this kidnapper trying to chat with me? Remembering the character I was supposed to play in this wife-chasing abusive novel, I said, "Of course I'm heartbroken. I've loved him for so many years, Don't mention other men in front of me." The kidnapper interrupted me angrily. The next moment, I was yanked into an embrace. Strong arms encircled me tightly, as if using every ounce of strength. "Brother kidnapper, you're going to strangle me." It felt like a beast devouring its prey. Wait, why was the kidnapper forcefully kissing me? This wasn't in the script. Suddenly, the cloth covering my eyes was removed. I hadn't even adjusted to the sudden brightness when... "Finally found you." A voice above me spoke, one I knew all too well. The owner of the voice grabbed my face, his eyes filled with a menacing darkness. His thumb brushed back and forth across the corner of my lips. "It's been a long time, my yang. What should I call you now? Sister-in-law?" I never imagined I'd meet Rongjing in another world. His amber eyes were exactly as I remembered, though now paired with a rebellious head of white hair. Quite the non-mainstream look. Wait, why did he call me sister-in-law? The system screamed in my head. "Host, the plot has changed. Make sure to check out the new storyline. Just then, the warehouse door was kicked open. Fu Rongyu, dressed entirely in black, finally arrived, albeit late. The howling wind nearly gave me a heart attack. If Fu Rongyu took just 10 more steps forward, his gaze would cross the shipping containers and see Rongjing and me entangled in an ambiguous embrace. He was getting closer. I stared at Rongjing anxiously. Rongjing lowered his head, brushing the stray hair from my ear, a teasing smile on his lips. Don't want him to see us? Then should I just kill him? Thanks, but killing him means killing my points. I shook my head vigorously. We live in a lawful society. You can't just kill people. His cold fingertips brushed the back of my neck. Those eyes of his, dark and stormy, bore into me. I suddenly realized what he truly cared about. With a sigh of resignation, I said, I don't like Fu Rongyu, not even a little, but I have reasons why I must do this. After saying that, I was worried he wouldn't believe me. After all, my credibility wasn't great, so I stood on tiptoe and pressed my lips to his. Help me, Your Highness. Let him go. Whatever score there is between us, you can settle it any way you like. In the past, when I asked him like this, he would have plucked the moon from the sky for me. As expected, Rongjing cupped the back of my head and kissed me in return. For a moment, it felt like the plot had paused. This was his way of agreeing. I had him, completely, under control. The system suddenly chimed in. Stop kissing, you're about to be caught. Rongjing obediently fixed my collar and walked out. I hid in the shadows behind the container, watching as he and Fu Rongyu stood face to face, hands in his pockets. He looked cool, confident, and absolutely commanding. Fu Rongyu, however, seemed anything but pleased, a frosty aura surrounding him. When he spoke, it was with a tone like the whole world owed him 5 billion. Why didn't you stay in New York? What did you come back for? Of course, I'm back to make life difficult for you, big brother. In this world, Rongjing was known as Fu Rongjing. The mighty ruler of the great Yao dynasty had somehow ended up in this absurd and outrageous wife-chasing abusive novel, now cast as the male lead's half-brother. I couldn't make sense of it at all. Fu Rongyu's expression darkened as he frowned and demanded, You're the mastermind behind Kronos? Rongjing nodded, openly admitting it. So, you're the one competing with me for that plot of land in the western suburbs? Do you even realize how important that land is to Fu Corporation? It's just as important to me. Rongjing wore a smile, but there wasn't a trace of warmth in it. He looked like nothing more than a frivolous playboy, but only I knew the obsessive and cruelty hidden beneath that facade. He once wore that very smile as he forced me to swallow poison. I just wanted to tell you, big brother, everything you have, I want it all. Fu Rongyu's icy demeanor grew even colder. He spat out, This isn't over, before storming off in a fury. The tall silhouette lingered before me. Before I could react, I was pulled into a familiar embrace. In the darkness, Rongjing's voice was a soft murmur, like a lover's whisper. Did you enjoy eavesdropping? Yes. Fu Rongyu must be furious. Shen Yang, Rongjing growled through clenched teeth, calling me by my former name. Don't mention other men in front of me. With that, he hoisted me over his shoulder and tossed me into the passenger seat. He floored the gas pedal, and as soon as we were in the elevator, he had me pinned against the wall, his body pressing into mine. The arm wrapped around my waist tightened even more, his deep voice exploding in my ear. Now, it's time to settle the score between us. Outside the window, the neon lights flickered through endless cycles. The swaying crystal chandelier blurred into an indistinct shimmer. Rongjing repeatedly shattered me, merging me into his very being. As I traced his back, my fingers brushed over a scar running from his shoulder blade to his waist. In my dazed state, I recalled that scar. It seemed to be from the time, years ago, when I was imprisoned in the palace and Rongjing had come to rescue me alone. His long fingers intertwined with mine, locking us together. What are you thinking about so deeply? Thinking about you. Wondering why you're here. Oh no, I accidentally voiced my inner thoughts. What answered me was a silence wrapped in the fury of a storm. When I finally woke up, a full day and night had passed. The morning light filtered through the curtains, casting fragmented patterns of light across the room. The walk-in closet was filled with the latest designer clothes, all in my size. As I changed, I couldn't help but think, Rongjing really is lucky. No matter where he goes, he's surrounded by wealth. Unlike me, driven to the brink of madness for the sake of earning points. On the dining table were plates of asparagus, scrambled eggs, toast, and a glass of warm milk. Why didn't you sleep a bit longer? Rongjing emerged from the kitchen, lifting me and placing me on the dining chair. He sat beside me, picked up a piece of toast, and tore it into pieces, soaking them in the milk. My gaze was involuntarily drawn to his hands. Last night, it was those hands that had held my ankle. Why is your face so red? Are you feeling hot? I nodded, then quickly shook my head. The next moment, he lifted me and set me down on the table. Milk spilled everywhere, and the plates and utensils were swept to the floor one by one. Leave them. We'll clean up later. No matter how much I pleaded, threw tantrums, or even tried to seduce him, I couldn't get Rongjing to reveal why he was in this world. Great, now he had secrets from me. But I could feel that lately, Rongjing had been treating me like a precious treasure he'd lost, and finally regained. He had become intensely insecure, constantly needing to confirm my presence. Sometimes he would wake up in the middle of the night, and upon realizing I was still beside him, he would let out a long sigh of relief before carefully pulling me into his arms. The once crazy crown prince had turned into someone mentally fragile. Lying on Rongjing's chest, I absent-mindedly played with the string of prayer beads he always wore around his wrist. I had obtained those beads for him at the busiest temple in Luoyang City, after climbing 990 stone steps and kneeling in prayer for 3 days. The Buddha had said his obsession was too deep and that he might never find peace in this life. Thinking of this, I asked him, The day I died, why did you suddenly return? Rongjing lowered his gaze, his fingers twirling a strand of my hair. The life-death goo. When the mother goo vanishes, the child goo reacts. I froze, then abruptly looked up. Back then, when the system assigned me to capture Rongjing, they gave me the role of an undercover agent. The higher the difficulty, the more points you'll earn. I was fooled by this very line and ended up diligently playing the role of an undercover agent. When my cover was blown, the consequences were disastrous. Rongjing had choked me and placed the most venomous life-death goo in me. I always thought the mother goo was inside him. Because the life-death goo was incurable, the child goo was eternally controlled by the mother goo. When the mother goo disappears, the host of the child goo experiences excruciating heartache. Did it hurt? Compared to losing you, that pain was nothing. I couldn't bring myself to meet those amber eyes. I was afraid my guilt would be all too obvious. Half a month passed. If I didn't get back to following the plot soon, I felt like my back might break. I called the system out, mentally forming a slow question mark. Host, don't worry. The main god has his own pace. Fine, I'll change the question. Dear system, you must know why Rongjing is in this world, right? The system gave a couple of awkward coughs. I do know, but the main god won't let me tell you. All right. The main god is my boss. I won't argue with him. Who could understand the hardships of a working person? 2 hours later, just as I peeled open a perfectly ripe, golden and juicy durian, ready to enjoy a few bites, the system's voice cut in at the worst possible moment. Host, it's time for you to return to the Fu residence and continue the plot. I changed into a simple white dress that matched my pure, simp persona. While Rongjing was busy with a video conference, I snuck out. This time, the plot didn't require me to walk back. Excited, I booked a luxury car service. When I arrived at the Fu residence, the staff greeted me as naturally as if nothing had happened. Miss Shi, you're back? It was as if my absence these past days was just a little vacation. I smiled and delivered my line. Is Fu Rongyu at home? The staff looked uneasy, glancing towards the second-floor study. I immediately understood. Thank you. As I passed the kitchen, the system reminded me. Host, don't forget to grab the prop. I chose the most beautiful glass and filled it with water. Dragging my feet heavily, I ascended the stairs, mainly because I needed those heavy steps to conceal my inner excitement. Starting tomorrow, Fu Rongyu would get the ultimate male lead experience in a wife-chasing, abusive novel, a VIP seat in the crematorium. The door to the study wasn't fully closed. Inside, I could hear Lin Songya's tearful voice. Everyone's saying I'm a homewrecker who seduced someone else's fiancé. But I was the one who knew you first. It was Shi Shuang who shamelessly inserted herself as the third party between us. I've loved you for so many years. What right does she have? Fu Rongyu held Lin Songya, gently patting her back. Don't worry, I won't let you be wronged. I can bear being wronged. I don't mind, but I don't want our child to suffer. If there was a light above my head, it would definitely be green. Now was the perfect moment. I let go of my hand. With a dull thud, the glass slipped from my grasp and landed on the thick carpet. I pinched my thigh hard, forcing tears to spring from my eyes, and with reddened eyes I stammered, "How could you do this to me?" Fu Rongyu glanced at me coldly. The kidnappers let you go so quickly? I tried to make myself look even more pitiful. I was locked up for a long time. I barely managed to escape. As I spoke, I rolled up my sleeve to show him the bruises on my arm. They were fake, created by the system. Shi Shuang, these deceitful tricks are getting old, Fu Rongyu said, his disgust plain on his face. Tears rolled down my cheeks. I'm not lying. I really was kidnapped. My acting deserved 10 Oscars. Lin Songya looked at me with eyes full of provocation. Stop acting, Shi Shuang. Who gets kidnapped and still looks so clean and neat? I know you're just trying to get IU's attention, but you can't force love. No matter how much you play the victim, it won't work. I asked the system, can I slap her to death? Harming NPCs will cost you 10 times the points. Fine, I held back and continued with my lines. If that's the case, I'll let you have him. I made sure to show an expression of utter sorrow. Then, I took off the ring on my finger and threw it at Fu Rongyu. Fu Rongyu, I'm the one who doesn't want you anymore. Who wrote such a crazy plot? The main god wrote it personally. Oh, well, it's actually pretty good. As I walked out of the Fu residence, a bolt of lightning suddenly slashed through the clear night sky. Immediately, a torrential downpour followed. I never quite understood the main god's obsession with making it rain during key plot moments. I wandered aimlessly through the rain, my mind in a daze. A red sports car executed a sharp, flawless turn and screeched to a halt in front of me. Rong Jing got out of the car, scooping me up into his arms. His tone was dark and ominous, and if you listened closely, you could almost hear him grinding his teeth. Do you know what I thought when I realized you were gone again? I thought about breaking your legs and locking you up. Feeling a bit lightheaded, I clung to his neck, nuzzling against him affectionately. You wouldn't do that? You're the best. And with that, I lost consciousness. Thanks to the rain the main god so graciously provided, I ended up with a fever of 39, 5 degrees Celsius. This wasn't the kind of temperature a hardworking plot follower should have. The system brainwashed me. Host, this is a new plotline that the main god specifically added to make it more reasonable for Fu Rongjing, the second male lead, to rise in status. The NPCs in this world don't know about your past relationship with the Crown Prince from the previous world. They only know that he's the male lead's younger brother. It made some sense, but it wasn't really necessary. The main god also mentioned that this plotline comes with extra points. Now I'm all in again! Rongjing entered the room, holding a glass of water and some medicine, and reached out to check my forehead. Feeling a bit guilty, I avoided his gaze. The truth was, from the moment he appeared, the plot of this world had shifted from the male lead's wife-chasing crematorium to the second male lead's ascension, and Rongjing was that second male lead. I pretended to be nonchalant as I reunited with him after a long separation, rekindling our old feelings, all while using him to complete the plot. But the reality was, once the story concluded, I would once again leave him. The other side of the bed sank as Rongjing lay down. He lifted the blanket and pulled me into his arms, his chin resting on the top of my head. You should sleep. You'll sweat it out and feel better. The scent of calming incense filled my nose, and soon my eyelids grew heavy and fused together. I dreamed again of the first time I met Rongjing. After staring all night at the tips of my shoes, embroidered with dragons and phoenixes, I finally heard the door creak open. As the bridal veil was lifted, a sharp dagger was suddenly pressed against my neck. Those amber eyes gazed at me leisurely. I've heard that drums made from the skin of a beautiful woman produce an exceptionally crisp sound. I think the crown princess's face would make a fine drum skin. After a moment, seeing no reaction from me, the tip of the blade moved up an inch. Aren't you afraid? I blinked. Why should I be afraid? Didn't your highness just say I'm beautiful? In truth, I was terrified. Rongjing slowly withdrew the dagger, a hint of amusement in his eyes. Yes, Crown Princess, you are indeed beautiful. I quickly picked up the wedding wine and offered it to him. Under my hopeful and determined gaze, Rongjing tilted his head back and drank the wedding wine, then stood as if to leave. I grabbed the red tassel hanging from his waist, meeting his puzzled look. We've bowed to heaven and earth, and we've shared the wedding wine. You are now my husband. It's late, husband. Where are you going? Rongjing sat back down beside me, reaching up to remove the jeweled hairpin from my hair. I haven't asked your name yet, but our marriage certificates had it clearly written. You didn't even look at it, did you? My name is Shen Yang, like the endless flow of the river. The scene lit by candlelight shattered into countless fragments. In one of those fragments, I saw Rongjing and me sitting at a wonton stall. Rongjing ordered 2 bowls of wontons, then carefully picked all the scallions off one bowl and put them into his own, before pushing the other bowl toward me. That day happened to be the Lantern Festival. After finishing the wontons, I dragged him through the bustling streets, buying several lanterns along the way. At a tea house, there was a newly staged opera. I watched it with great interest while Rongjing whispered in my ear, "Yang Yang, wait for me here." As I turned to reply, he was already gone. In another fragment, Rongjing walked into a dimly lit alley, his steps slow and deliberate. Amid the intertwining shadows of the trees, a cold gleam suddenly flashed towards his face. Rongjing sidestepped the attack, his eyes filling with murderous intent. Dressed in white, he looked like a grim reaper, expressionless as he twisted the necks of one assassin after another. He turned around, his gaze cutting through the long stretch of darkness. We locked eyes from opposite ends of the alley. I stepped on the fallen leaves, walking toward Rongjing, and took his hand. "Why did you take so long? I was getting sleepy waiting for you." Rongjing tightened his grip on my hand. "I'll be quicker next time." From that moment on, he never hid anything from me again. He would even hold me on his lap, pulling out a ledger and spreading it open, letting me casually circle the names of a few corrupt officials. Whoever I circled was as good as dead. During that time, I was busier than the King of Hell. The winds in the capital were never calm. The old emperor had become obsessed with achieving immortality, devoting all his energy to building a tower to the heavens and concocting elixirs. His health was visibly deteriorating. According to tradition, if the old emperor were to die, Rongjing, as the crown prince, would naturally ascend the throne. But the other princes were far from happy about this. They saw Rongjing as a thorn in their side, a threat they were desperate to eliminate. My father, too, seemed to enjoy complicating things for himself. Instead of supporting the most likely future emperor, Rongjing, he stubbornly pledged his loyalty to the third prince. I later learned that the third prince's mother's sister was my father's long-dead white moonlight. It was like my father had a loose screw, forcing me to marry Rongjing as an undercover agent. He even insisted on bringing the third prince along to whisper secret plans to me when Rongjing and I were entering the palace together, slipping me a packet of poison on the side. Just as I tucked the poison away, Rongjing's personal attendant came to find me. "Crown Princess, His Highness is waiting for you at Chengming Hall." Chengming Hall was Rongjing's residence before he left the palace to establish his own household. Although it had been unoccupied for a long time, palace servants cleaned it daily, so it hadn't fallen into disrepair. Rongjing stood under the corridor, hands behind his back, facing away from me. He only turned around when he heard my footsteps, offering me a faint smile in the golden light of the setting sun. He took me to the backyard and pointed out an inconspicuous little mound of earth for me to see. When I was very young, I found a rabbit and kept it for a long time. One day, it bit me. I held it underwater until it stopped breathing, then buried it here to remind myself never to show mercy to those who betray their master. Yang Yang, what did Minister Shen say to you just now at the lakeside pavilion? The roughened pad of his thumb brushed against my neck, sending a shiver down my spine. Without thinking, I dropped to my knees, sliding down into a pleading position. Clinging to his lean waist, I wailed, My father asked me to secretly mix some kijue powder into your food every day. It wouldn't kill immediately, but it would gradually erode a person's internal organs and mind, with no cure in sight. I took out the packet of poison and placed it in his hand. I refused. How could I ever harm my own husband? Harm him I would, but not just yet. The timing wasn't right. Rongjing held the small packet of poison for a moment, a faint smile curling at his lips. I didn't realize, Yang Yang, that your feelings for me run so deep. I suspected he was mocking me, but I had thick skin. So I smiled sweetly and nodded, deeper than the bottomless abyss. I didn't expect that. The moment I opened my mouth, a pill slipped down my throat. Rongjing grabbed my wrist, pinning it above my head, and held my chin to keep me from spitting out the pill. His tone was intimate, like a lover's whisper. Then you'd be willing to die for me, wouldn't you? This is a new poison made by the Shadow Guards. After taking it, you won't live more than 24 hours. Damn, system. You never told me he was this crazy. I forced myself to stay calm, smiling even more brightly. Of course I'm willing. I do anything for you, Your Highness. In reality, I'm doing this for the points. After I die, you should cremate me and scatter my ashes in the wind. That way, every time the wind blows, you'll think of me. Make sure to eat well, sleep well, and... I frantically tried to remember the lines from the romance novels I'd read, reciting them like mad. Suddenly, my feet left the ground as Rongjing lifted me into his arms and carried me swiftly into the hall. The door shut, the curtains fell. The scent of calming incense enveloped me. I pushed Rongjing's shoulder. I'm about to die, and you still want to do it? Weren't you the one who told me to sleep well? So out of everything I said, that's the only part you paid attention to? It seemed the Shadow Guard's poison-making skills weren't that great. Anyway, I didn't quite die. The political situation in the court was unpredictable and treacherous. The old emperor's health fluctuated between strong and weak. My father and the third prince wanted to take advantage of the emperor's good days to cause trouble and depose Rongjing. They wrote to me constantly, asking if I had poisoned him yet. As I picked up my pen to reply, yes, I'm adding a little bit every day. I gave Rongjing a quick peck on the cheek and said, let me deceive this old fool. Double agent work meant double the points. 2 months later, when my father realized Rongjing was still alive and well, he finally understood that I had been deceiving him. He and the third prince, under the guise of the noble consort, summoned me to the palace and imprisoned me in a side hall of her quarters. They began sending Rongjing blood-stained clothes and my hairpins and jade bracelets, trying to force him to come rescue me. Once a prince comes of age, he's not allowed into the inner palace without an imperial decree, and certainly not allowed to carry weapons there. If Rongjing came, he'd face an onslaught of impeachment and accusations. How do I know this so well? Because I personally wrote this plan as a secret message and sent it to my father, following the system's instructions. I asked the system, is this really a capture mission? What kind of capture mission involves such a crazy plotline? The system chuckled awkwardly. Sorry about that, host. This is my first time being a system, so I forgot to tell you. This mission is plus level. There are 2 essential conditions for success: maintaining the main storyline and ensuring Rongjing ascends the throne as emperor. The main storyline meant I had to help my father plot against Rongjing, leading to his demotion. Then, during his downfall, he would meet his advisors, who would assist him in overthrowing this decaying dynasty and achieving a grand revolution. It was quite thrilling and also pretty challenging. No wonder you were so excited when I took on this mission, with static in your voice and everything. You've never seen such an easy-to-fool newbie, have you? Host, how could you say that? You're the best and most amazing newbie I've ever seen. I see limitless potential in you. Keep going. Remember, this mission offers double points. Not only was it emotionally manipulative, but it also knew exactly how to hook me with the promise of double points. It was too good at its job. On the 7th day of my confinement in the side hall, Rongjing came for me. With a loud crash, his long sword sliced through the chains on the hall's door. Blinding sunlight streamed in through the gap, and I instinctively raised my hand to shield my eyes. When I lowered it, Rongjing was standing right in front of me. He was breathing heavily, with dried blood smeared at the corner of his eyes, and his body bore the marks of battle. Seeing me sitting unharmed at the table, with a brush handle still in my mouth, he was first slightly stunned. Then, without saying a word, he picked me up and calmly walked out of the side hall. I wrapped my arms around his neck, burying my face in his chest. Guilt gnawed at me. It wasn't until we were seated in the carriage heading back to the residence that I noticed Rongjing's back was soaked in blood. A vicious wound stretched from his shoulder blade down to his waist. My trembling fingers touched the wound. A sharp sting hit my nose, and tears began to fall uncontrollably. Rongjing sighed, pulling me into his embrace. "I'm fine." "You won't be fine for long." 3 days later, Rongjing was demoted, and his position as crown prince was revoked. With a stroke of the old emperor's pen, he was sent to the remote and chaotic Luoyun city to reflect on his actions. Unexpectedly, my father, somehow having found a bit of conscience, sent someone to deliver a letter to me. He asked if I needed help escaping. I crouched behind a rockery, just as I pulled out a fire starter to burn the letter. A shadow fell over me, blocking out the light above. I looked up and unexpectedly met those familiar amber eyes. Before I could react, the letter had already been snatched from my hand. I crouched on the ground, trembling. I watched in horror as Rongjing's expression grew darker and darker. The letter in his hand was torn to shreds, the pieces fluttering down like snowflakes. "So this is your love for me?" With sudden, uncontrollable force, he lifted me and pinned me against the rockery. His eyes were a terrifying shade of red, filled with anger, confusion, and pain. I couldn't bear to meet his gaze, my eyes darting away. "I'm sorry." But he grabbed my chin, forcing me to look at him. "So everything you did was to deceive me? Shenyang, I want you to admit it." His voice, harsh and raspy, trembled ever so slightly. I had just uttered a single word. Rongjing, irritated, covered my mouth and said, "Enough, I don't want to hear you talk." He tied me to a chair and ordered someone to bring a brocade box. The moment the brocade box was opened, a buzzing sound reverberated so loudly that it nearly shattered my eardrums, and for a brief moment, even saw double. Rongjing took out a dagger, sliced his fingertip, and reached his hand into the brocade box. He didn't withdraw it until the buzzing sound completely faded away. He gripped my neck, leaned down, and kissed me. Suddenly, a sharp pain shot through my tongue, and the taste of blood spread throughout my mouth. It felt as if something had entered my body, swiftly disappearing into my limbs and bones. After what felt like an eternity, Rongjing finally released me, wiping the blood from my lips. In the gentlest tone, he spoke the coldest words. "Yang Yang, have you heard of the life-death goo? I've just planted one inside your body." The system helpfully explained. The life-death goo is the most potent poison from Miaojiang, binding through bloodlines, and is incurable. The person implanted with the child goo becomes a puppet of the mother goo, forever controlled by it, and can never escape. If the mother goo is forcibly destroyed, the child goo will retaliate, which simply means your life is in his hands. He can torment you however he pleases, and you won't be able to resist. I felt a strange sense of relief. How could this be considered torture? It was giving me the perfect opportunity to complete my mission. The system's voice echoed in my mind, filled with satisfaction. "Host, I knew I wasn't wrong about you." Because of the incident with the deposed crown prince, a deep rift formed between Rongjing and me. The life-death goo was planted, but the resentment in his heart remained unresolved. From the capital to Luoyun City along the way. During the day, he barely spoke to me, giving me the cold shoulder with a stern expression, yet still forcing me to eat the shrimp he had peeled. "I don't like shrimp. You eat it." At night, it was as if he was venting his anger, tormenting me repeatedly. This strange, awkward tension persisted until the day the assassins hired by the third prince appeared. In the blink of an eye, I weighed the pros and cons and, without hesitation, threw myself in front of Rongjing to shield him from the airborne poisoned arrow. Host, with Rongjing's skills, he could have easily dodged that. "You don't understand. I wasn't just taking an arrow, I was securing a bright future." Rongjing's hands were icy as he held me, his entire body trembling. "Why did you shield me from that arrow?" I opened my mouth, only to cough up a large amount of blood as consciousness slipped away. When I woke up, the poison had been neutralized. Rongjing was sitting by the bed, feeding me a bowl of bitter, dark medicine. The system informed me, "Host. He stayed by your side the entire time you were unconscious, never once closing his eyes. He was risking his life for you." I looked at Rongjing. The face that had once stunned me with its beauty was now pale and haggard, his eyes bloodshot. He reached out and pulled me into his arms, his voice rough and dry as it escaped his throat. "Yang, I'm sorry. I had indeed secured a bright future. Rongjing's affection for me had finally reached 100%. Now, all I had to do was wait for him to ascend the throne. Then I could complete my mission and claim double points." The 7 years Rongjing and I spent in Luoyang City replayed in my dreams like a series of fleeting images. He met the advisor as expected. Together, they solved the locust plague, managed flood disasters, and repelled foreign enemies, stacking countless buffs before finally returning to the capital. The third prince met a gruesome end. Rongjing personally skinned him and stripped his bones. Outside the prison, I could hear the agonizing screams. Rongjing walked out briskly, holding me tightly, his voice low and heavy. Yang, third brother cursed me to lose the one I love forever. You won't leave me, will you?" The mighty crown prince asked me for reassurance with such caution. I think my answer at that time was, "No, I'll never leave you." The relentless vibration of my phone pulled me back to reality. I had slept for too long. The fever had long since broken. I glanced at my phone on the bedside table. It was a message from the auction house manager. "Miss Shi, the Huo family will be hosting a charity gala in 3 days. The painting you entrusted to us has been delivered." I opened the attachment, which included an electronic invitation. The truth was, Shi Shuang was just my side identity. My main identity was the genius painter Cici, whose works were nearly impossible to acquire. This was a face-slapping scenario carefully set up by the main god. At the charity gala, Fu Rongyu would discover my true identity, and he would also realize that I had been spending time with the brother he despised the most. This revelation would trigger his desperate, crazy pursuit of me, but he would never succeed. Rongjing pushed open the door to the room. He found me sitting cross-legged on the bed, clutching my phone and laughing maniacally while pounding the mattress. He gave me a dispassionate glance. "Looks like you've recovered." "Thanks to your highness's excellent care," I replied with a sweet smile, spreading my arms and clinging to him like a koala. As I nuzzled against him, I caught a whiff of something delicious. "What did you cook that smells so good?" Rongjing brought over a porcelain white bowl, and the wontons, floating in fragrant oil and sprinkled with scallions, came into view. "Last night, you kept murmuring wontons, wontons in your sleep, so I made some according to your taste. How is it?" I eagerly took a bite, pleasantly surprised by the flavor. Delicious. Even the imperial chefs would have to step aside. "When did your highness learn to make wontons?" "This morning. I followed an online tutorial. I really dislike people who succeed at everything they try." As I ate the wontons, some faint memories began to surface in my mind. I decided to tease Rongjing. "Aren't you curious about what else I dreamed of besides wontons?" Rongjing played along. "What else did you dream of?" "I dreamt that you planted the life-death goo in me. I also dreamt that on our way to Luoyang City, I was hit by a poisoned arrow, but when I woke up, the poison had already been cured. Isn't that strange?" Rongjing chuckled softly. "Not strange at all." Yeah, keep acting." I had originally suspected that he used the life-death goo to draw the poison into himself and gradually neutralize it. That's why he looked so sickly and pale during that time. Now, I was almost certain. Who would place the child goo in themselves while giving someone else the mother goo? He wanted to scare me, but couldn't bear to actually harm me. A crazy crown prince with a reassuring kind of madness. The charity gala was teeming with high society elites. I heard that besides my painting, there were many rare and valuable items up for auction that you wouldn't normally see on the market. I had just taken my seat in the front row when a familiar voice drifted over from nearby. "Shi Shuang? You really have thick skin. You're the one who said you'd let go, yet here you are trying every trick to bump into Ayu. Are you planning to pull your usual clingy routine again?" Lin Songya strolled over, arm in arm with Fu Rongyu. She held her chin high, flaunting the priceless emerald necklace around her neck. Her pale fingers sparkled with a dazzling engagement ring. She smiled smugly. "Sorry, but you missed your chance. Ayu and I are getting married next month." "Miss Lin, are you telling me this so I can contribute to the wedding gift fund?" With that, I couldn't be bothered to engage further and simply looked down, flipping through the auction catalog. Just then, Rongjing finished his conversation with Mr. Huo and returned. He sat beside me, naturally wrapping an arm around my waist and pulling me close. His voice was tinged with mockery. "What's wrong, baby? Did you see something dirty again?" "Yeah, I should have checked the calendar before heading out." Shi Shuang. Fu Rongyu finally couldn't hold back any longer, speaking in a cold tone. "I know you're with Fu Rongjing to get back at me. This whole playing hard to get act won't work on me, so stop wasting your time." I turned to look at Fu Rongyu, noticing how the halo of the male lead was gradually fading. There was a strange emotion in his furrowed brows, one he probably hadn't even realized himself. "President Fu, you're taking yourself way too seriously. Should I give you a mirror so you can take a good look at yourself?" "Shi Shuang!" Fu Rongyu's face turned as black as the bottom of a pot with anger. But with all the influential figures from the political and business worlds present, he couldn't afford to make a scene. The items the Huo family put up for auction were indeed impressive, each one rivaling my painting in value. Rongjing lowered his gaze, casually playing with my fingers, embodying the image of a carefree playboy. Whatever Fu Rongyu bid on, Rongjing would immediately outbid him. In just an hour, he had already spent 5 billion. When my painting finally appeared, I pressed down on Rongjing's hand just as he was about to raise his paddle. Rongjing raised an eyebrow. "You don't want me to bid? I was just getting warmed up." "I get it. You're rich." Old Master Fu was a big fan of my work. Because of the broken engagement and because of Lin Songya, Fu Rongyu wasn't on good terms with the Fu family, so he was definitely going to bid on this painting to win back Old Master Fu's favor. Without the deep-pocketed crown prince stirring the pot, Fu Rongyu's bidding went smoothly, and he soon secured the painting. Congratulations to the male lead on obtaining an important plot item. Next up, we have a very special item from Mr. Huo's private collection, a 9-dragon glass cup from the Great Yao dynasty. My mind started buzzing. I couldn't hear anything the auctioneer said after that. Great Yao dynasty? 9-dragon glass cup? The pair of 9-dragon glass cups resting in the purple sandalwood box sparkled under the spotlight, reflecting brilliant colors. How could something from the Great Yao dynasty appear in this world? And more importantly, I recognized them. After the defeat of the Southern Night Kingdom, a collection of rare treasures had been offered in tribute. Among them were these very 9-dragon glass cups. Rongjing had gifted them to me. The chip on the rim was from when I accidentally dropped it. After finally calming my breath, I stared at the pair of glass cups and tugged on Rongjing's sleeve. "Why are the cups you gave me here?" Rongjing gently squeezed my hand and replied calmly, "They do look quite similar." "It's not just similar, they're the exact ones you gave me." I raised my paddle to bid. Lin Songya, following Fu Rongyu's signal, also raised hers. The pair of 9-dragon glass cups ended up fetching the highest price of the night. I didn't have the money, but Rongjing did. The purple sandalwood box was heavy in my hands as it was delivered to me. I took a deep breath, just about to open it, when a slender, strong hand rested on the lid. Rongjing's voice was soft. "Let's open it when we get home." I stared at him, bewildered for a few seconds, then nodded. 1/3 of tonight's auction proceeds will be donated to charitable organizations. After the auction ended, Mr. Huo and Mrs. Huo took the stage. Mrs. Huo, with her round almond eyes curved like crescent moons, looked straight at me. "Thank you, Cece, for choosing this event for your public debut. You're even more..." She paused for dramatic effect. "Beautiful than I imagined." She winked at me as she finished. Now, even a dog would know that I was Cece. And of course, Fu Rongyu realized it too. He stood frozen in place, as if the life had been drained out of him. His expression shifted from shock to a deep sense of loss, mingled with a complex mix of emotions. As I was leaving the Huo residence, Fu Rongyu stopped me. "Shi Shuang, why didn't you tell me earlier that you were Cece?" "Fu Rongyu, I once gave you a painting." You didn't even look at it before throwing it away. Later, I retrieved it from the trash, cleaned it up, and sold it for 30 million. Oh, it's the one hanging in the Fu family's old mansion, the sword and the rose. If I had known you were Cece, I wouldn't have treated you that way. Fu Rongyu's voice grew softer, tinged with a faint sense of regret. President Fu, you really do have a thing for double standards, don't you? It's not okay for Xi Shuang, but it's fine for Cece? Fu Rongyu's silence was all the answer I needed. I pointed towards Lin Songya, who was waiting nearby. Miss Lin is still waiting for you. Pregnant women shouldn't be out in the wind. You should cherish the person in front of you, President Fu. After delivering my lines, I lifted the hem of my dress and dashed toward Rongjing. The moment we stepped through the door, he pinned me against it. I could feel the rapid beat of his heart against my chest, his breath warm against my neck. Rongjing's tone held a hint of reproach. Yang, you've never given me a painting. I laughed softly, surprised. Your Highness, you've seen all kinds of treasures. Would you really miss one of my paintings? His amber eyes darkened. I quickly gave in, kissing him on the lips to appease him. I don't have a painting, but you have me. Do you want me? Rongjing carried me to the window, sitting down with me in his lap. He opened the purple sandalwood box and took out the contents. In the moonlight, the glass cups revealed their ancient patterns, glowing softly. I became even more certain that these were indeed the 9-dragon glass cups from the Southern Night Kingdom, the ones Rongjing had given me. But Rongjing simply said, "Perhaps it's just a coincidence." A strange thought suddenly flashed through my mind. While Rongjing went to take a shower, I searched for Great Yao Dynasty online. Countless results popped up immediately, but without exception, they all confirmed that Great Yao Dynasty and the world we currently inhabited existed within the same timeline. Great Yao Dynasty was part of this world's history. I'll make sure to thoroughly read the background settings next time. For now, I decided to ask the system. Aren't mission worlds supposed to be independent entities? Why are there 2 connected worlds, and why am I tasked with missions in both of them? This feels like a trap. The system took a long time to respond. Host, you can think of it as the main god being lazy and reusing some old settings. Really? Really. If you're lying, give me double points. Alright. When Rongjing emerged from the bathroom, I was reading the chronicles of Great Yao Dynasty. I had just reached the part where Crown Prince Jing murdered his father to ascend the throne, changed the era name to Xiyuan, and during his reign, he carried out sweeping reforms, abolishing the aristocratic families. In the 3rd year of Xiyuan, he abdicated in favor of a noble from a foreign clan, and then vanished without a trace. It was surreal to have the very person from history standing right in front of me. Rongjing, as was his habit, pulled me into his arms, resting his chin on top of my head. What are you reading? Turning off my phone screen, I rolled over and glared at him fiercely. Did you know all along about the connection between the Great Yao Dynasty and this world? Yes. Rongjing ruffled my hair. After much prodding, he finally explained why he ended up in this world. About 3 years after you left, I started hearing a strange voice in my head. It asked if I wanted to see you again. I said yes, and then I found myself here, and with a new identity. He said it so casually. I tried to find some hint of deception in his expression. The system's voice chimed in. That's correct. Isn't that way too simple? That's correct. The system seemed a bit off today. I hugged Rongjing, teasing him with a smile. So you just gave up the throne? Abandoned your empire? I didn't know I had such a strong pull on the crown prince. He didn't answer directly. Instead, he simply said, Yang, I'm just happy I get to see you again. The next day, Rongjing had a few fresh scratches on his back. Not long after, news spread like wildfire that Fu Rongyu had kicked Lin Songya out of the Fu residence. My dear mother had a hand in that too. When she couldn't get money from me, she went straight to Fu Rongyu and told him that the fire 7 years ago, which led to his mother's death, was connected to my father. But what she didn't know was that Fu Rongyu had been there too. I was the one who pulled him out of that blazing inferno. He realized he had made a colossal mistake, betraying the one person he shouldn't have. So he quickly severed ties with Lin Songya and blocked my path to confess his long overdue feelings. He even retrieved the ring I had thrown away. Shuang Shuang, come back with me. Let's start over. You told me to cherish the person in front of me, and I've realized that the only person in front of me is you. I frowned and leaned closer to Rongjing. President Fu, your speed at abandoning and picking up relationships is truly impressive. But sorry, I don't have a habit of recycling trash. I know you're upset about Lin Songya's pregnancy, but I've already forced her to get rid of the child. I won't let anyone or anything come between us. From now on, my world only has room for you. Shameless plus no boundaries equals Fu Rongyu? Rongjing sneered, pulling me along as we walked right past Fu Rongyu. Big brother, I just sent you an address. You should visit when you have time. Fu Rongyu suspiciously pulled out his phone. Where is this? The S-City Mental Health Treatment Center. Mention my name for a 20% discount. Behind us, Fu Rongyu shouted furiously. Fu Rongjing, don't get too smug. Shuang Shuang is only with you to get back at me. She'll eventually realize her true feelings and come back to me. You don't know how much she loves me. Not much love there, really. It's all just part of the script. Also, you're way too noisy. Rongjing quietly slipped a ring onto my finger, one he had designed himself. I loved it so much that I took a photo and posted it on my social media. It didn't take long for someone to send the picture to Fu Rongyu. He relentlessly called me 18 times in a row. Annoyed, Rongjing grabbed my phone and answered the call. A drunken voice came through the speaker. Shuang Shuang, I'm so drunk. Why aren't you coming to pick me up? You used to come no matter how late it was. Rongjing, holding me close, lazily replied, Shuang Shuang is too tired and has fallen asleep. He then kissed me on the cheek. The line quickly turned to a series of beeps, signaling the call had ended. The days of not being a simp were wonderfully peaceful. Rongjing pushed aside all his work to stay home with me, buying all my favorite foods and diving into the kitchen with his laptop, determined to learn new recipes on the spot. Once again, he was mastering a new skill in real time. My curiosity spiked, and I decided to brush up on some background knowledge by reading. I stood by the bookshelf, pondering for a full 10 minutes. Finally, my attention was caught by the complete collection of 100,000 cold jokes. As I reached up to grab it, I accidentally knocked down a beautifully bound book with gold lettering that looked very expensive. A yellowed bookmark slipped out from the front page, and the handwriting on it was all too familiar. I hate distance, shadows, pain, rain. I want bright days with you, by the sea and on the sand. I want a fantastical sky, a beloved land, but only with you. I want flesh, warmth, stones, smooth water, everything we can touch. I hate dreaming. I hate waiting. When did Rongjing become so poetic? I stared at the handwriting on the bookmark for a few seconds and realized something was off. Every stroke conveyed despair and defiance. The words were filled with obsession and madness. Host, 20 points for a secret. Want to trade? The system's sudden voice startled me. 20 points? You might as well ask for my life. No deal. It's a secret about the Crown Prince. I gritted my teeth and reluctantly responded, Deal. The system fed a series of images into my mind. In the vision, Rongjing was dressed in a black silk long robe from the Republic of China era, intricately embroidered with gold thread. He sat in a Hongwali wood chair, a jade thumb ring on his finger, tapping the table rhythmically. A middle-aged man, also dressed in a long robe, stood respectfully in front of him. With a slight bow, he carefully unrolled the scroll in his hands. It was an ancient piece of calligraphy. Rongjing lifted his gaze and glanced casually at the scroll, his eyes finally settling on the signature at the bottom. The characters Zi Yin were written in a bold, flowing script. How much does Mr. Chen want to sell it for? The middle-aged man referred to as Mr. Chen thought for a moment and then raised 3 fingers. Rongjing called for a servant. Take Mr. Chen to the accounting office. Thank you, Mr. Rong. The scene shifted. In a simple bamboo hut, Rongjing, his hair unbound, sat by the bedside with his knees drawn up. One hand held a half-empty wine jug, the other a brush, surrounded by scattered sheets of paper. Suddenly, someone pushed open the door. Brother Ziyin, I haven't seen you in days, and here you are, hiding away to drink alone. The man casually picked up a piece of paper from the ground and glanced at it. Clicking his tongue in amazement, he said, "It's surprising, considering that Vice Minister Shui always claimed Brother Ziyin had great calligraphy skills but wasn't good at portraits. If he saw these, he'd probably be begging to become your apprentice. It's just that the woman in this painting doesn't look like someone from the capital. She seems quite unfamiliar." Rongjing carefully gathered the scattered papers. He murmured, "She's the woman from my dreams." The drawings were all of me. I suddenly remembered Ziyin was Rongjing's courtesy name. The images faded and the system's voice returned. "Host, after you left, the Crown Prince's resentment nearly tore that world apart. The main god made a pact with him, granting him a new identity every so often, allowing him to exist as an observer in this time and space indefinitely. He might encounter you, or he might not. The only thing he could do was wait. He has waited for you for 2,456 years." My heart suddenly clenched, as if a massive crack had split it open. What the system had told me was too absurd to believe, yet everything seemed to align. The scar on Rongjing's back, the chipped 9-dragon glass cup, his vague, seemingly casual answers to my persistent questions. Every little detail was reminding me he hadn't just suddenly appeared in this world. He had waited for me for 2,000 years. For me, it had only been a transition from one world to the next. But for him, it had been 2 long, lonely millennia. I leaned against the bookshelf in anguish, my chest feeling like it was weighed down by a boulder, making it impossible to breathe. "Host, I've wanted to tell you all this for a long time. The main god kept silencing me, preventing me from speaking, even reprogramming me to control what I could say. But just now, a major plot disruption occurred in another dimension, so the main god went to fix it. He can't monitor me right now. The system's voice suddenly cut off. It was replaced by another, more authoritative mechanical voice. "System 01 has violated system protocols and is temporarily offline. Host, please continue to complete your mission." I sat on the floor for what felt like an eternity, long enough for Rongjing to notice I was missing and search for me, room by room. I felt someone lift me up, cradling me by the back of my knees. I looked up, staring blankly at Rongjing. His hair color had changed, but those amber eyes that always reflected me hadn't. I reached out, tracing the lines of his brows and eyes with trembling fingers. Rongjing, noticing something was wrong, set me down and knelt before me. "What's happened?" I struggled to open my mouth, my voice coming out raspy and broken. Waiting 2,000 years for me? Was it worth it? Rongjing smiled. In his smile, I saw a hint of relief. His gaze locked onto mine, his expression focused and sincere. "You, in my eyes, have never been in the category of worthy or unworthy. To me, you are everything. That world was perfect, except it was missing you, and you're all I want. If it's something I truly desire, what does it matter if I wait a little longer? And besides, I waited, didn't I?" 2,000 years were brushed aside by him with just a few understated words. His amber eyes were filled with unabashed obsession and deep affection. I should have understood this when his affection for me reached 100%. Love can make a person grow flesh and blood, and it can also lead to endless delusions. Just as he stubbornly insisted on calling me Yang. The room was dim, so I walked to the window and pulled back the curtains. Even though it was only the setting sun, the light stung my eyes, making them unexpectedly tear up. Yang, you promised you'd never leave me." Rongjing embraced me from behind, whispering softly like a devout believer. Those words felt like an ancient spell. It seemed that the only one eternally trapped was him. Shenyang would always owe Rongjing a forever. The glass reflected our 2 overlapping figures, so intimately close. As I looked out at the skyline of towering buildings, I slowly spoke. "This city, centuries ago, was once the mighty Dulan River. The land you snatched from the Fu Corporation in the western suburbs is still called Show Mountain by some. You see, rivers can dry up, mountains can crumble, and even the most beautiful roses will eventually fall into the dust and vanish. Forever is just a lie told by liars to fools. I've been deceiving you all along." I told Rongjing everything. Everything that had happened between us, whether it was sweet words, love, or hatred, all of it, was because I was just someone completing a mission. And once the mission ended, I would disappear from his life. So, stop being so attached, Your Highness. The moment the words left my mouth, he swiftly flipped me over with a forceful grip. Rongjing held my waist firmly, pulling me toward him as he bent down and kissed me. I was trapped tightly in his embrace. Yang Yang, I've known all along about everything you just said. How long a liar can fool a fool depends on the fool's choice. I'm willing to be deceived as long as you're willing to keep lying to me. His voice was almost pleading. My eyes widened in shock, bigger than grapes pumped with hormones. You knew all along? Yes, after living for over 2,000 years, sometimes I had to play the NPC. No wonder it was him who kidnapped me according to the plot. No wonder he always appeared at the critical points in the story. I lowered my eyes, unable to meet his gaze. But eventually, I'll have to leave. Then I'll keep waiting. I'll wait for our next encounter. Even if it takes thousands and thousands of years, I'll find you again. He really was a madman. This madman wouldn't let me wallow in self-pity. Instead, he started to brainwash me. I'm the one who waited 2,000 years, and I don't feel cheated. So what's your problem? A fair point, straight to the heart, and impossible to argue with. I had no problem with that anymore. After that evening, Rongjing and I tacitly chose to forget that evening. We chose to forget about the storyline that was always on the verge of reaching its end. We pretended that our future was still long, stretching far ahead. We went to the newly opened amusement park, ate at century-old street food stalls, watched movies, and shopped at the supermarket. We held hands and kissed under old streetlights. We tangled ourselves in each other during the endless nights, consumed by passion, until nothing else existed. The system remained offline for a long time. That authoritative mechanical voice did not reappear either. The plot that followed suddenly became open-ended. To be honest, I still preferred spoilers, especially when I was unexpectedly kidnapped by Fu Rongyu while out buying a birthday cake for Rongjing. Without any warning, I was knocked out by a rag pressed over my nose and mouth. Before I lost consciousness, I saw the manic gleam in Fu Rongyu's eyes. It was a clear sign that something unexpected was about to happen. I woke up on a rooftop, the wind chilling me awake. Fu Rongyu sat in front of me on a rickety chair, lighting a cigarette. He stared at me through the swirling smoke for a long time. Shuang, you used to love me so much. I only made a small mistake, but I've turned back. Why won't you give me another chance? His gaze clung to my face like the venomous fangs of a snake, cold and full of danger. At least take the tape off my mouth before asking questions. My hands and feet were bound tightly with rough rope, leaving me unable to move. Fu Rongyu pulled out a folding knife and pressed it to my neck, the tip already piercing my skin. If I can't have you, then neither can Fu Rongjing. What era is this? Who still plays the "if I can't have you, no one can" card? Help! With a loud crash, the chains wrapped around the iron gate were forcibly broken. The moment I saw Rongjing, it felt like I was seeing light itself. Brother, let Shishuang go. Whatever you want, I can give it to you. Fu Rongyu yanked me up violently, and the knife pressed another centimeter deeper into my skin. Hiss! The sharp pain of the cut sent a shiver through me. His mocking laughter echoed in my ears. Fu Rongjing! Out of all the women in the world, you just had to go after the one I want. You're just like your filthy mother. You'll give me anything I want? Fine then, I want your life. He then tossed the folding knife from my neck to the ground at Rongjing's feet. A vicious grin spread across Fu Rongyu's face. I don't need to tell you where to stab, do I, my dear brother? I couldn't speak, so I shook my head frantically. I watched in horror as Rongjing calmly picked up the knife. The hand that had held mine countless times gripped the handle, and without hesitation, he plunged it straight into his own heart. The sound of the blade sinking into flesh was accompanied by a muffled groan. Rongjing's body wavered before collapsing to the ground. He struggled to lift his head and looked at me one last time. I couldn't hold back any longer. Tears streamed down my face. Congratulations, host, on completing the entire storyline. Initiating transfer now. In 10 seconds, you will be transported to the next mission world. The cold, authoritative mechanical voice suddenly reappeared. I clung to it like a lifeline, desperately pleading, "Please, save Rongjing. He's losing so much blood. Host, You have no authority to interfere with life and death in the current world. My vision began to blur. I was forcibly pulled out of that world. I didn't even get the chance to say goodbye to Rongjing. On the first day in the new world, my system finally returned. Host, did you miss me? I'm sorry. That's in the last world, I had a fight with the main god, and because of that, he got angry and messed up the storyline. I've already scolded him. I even got your 20 points back. This time, I carefully selected the mission for you. Just get ready to enjoy a good life. I looked around. Dilapidated buildings, trash strewn everywhere, and a mutated rat napping on the sidewalk. At the same time, new information popped into my head. J52 Star, a slum in the Sivatan star system with very poor security. And my identity? Just to be sure, I checked again. The lost princess of the Icarus Empire, the most beautiful woman in the galaxy, an Omega with an undeveloped pheromone gland. The system calmly read out that line. Does that sound reasonable to you? But before the system could answer, a giant burlap sack descended from the sky. Being too beautiful really is dangerous. I was sold by a gambling addict on J52 Star to an interstellar trafficker. Then, the trafficker sold me to the Alliance military for 5 million star coins. Several alien servants held me down and forced me into a rather revealing outfit. They then shoved me into a palace floating at the highest point of the military headquarters. The heavy doors slowly closed behind me, but I could still hear whispers filtering through. The commander, despite being a top-tier alpha in the galaxy, refuses to mark any Omega. His pheromones are terrifyingly strong. I've heard that he's been increasing the dosage of suppressants during his recent heat cycles. So the steward decided to bring in a pretty beta to see if it works? Yes, you know, a beta can help an alpha during heat without getting marked. But the beta might not survive such a powerful alpha. She could die. Excuse me, how rude. I'm just an Omega with a slightly undeveloped pheromone gland. I had just taken a step forward when a golden cup crashed down at my feet. From the shadows deep within the palace came a frustrated, angry roar. Get out! I don't need an Omega! Bring me the suppressants! The system chirped excitedly. Host, you're going to love the male lead in this world. I had no choice but to press on, step by step. With every move, the overwhelming pheromones became even more intense. Wait a minute, why does this smell like calming incense? I sprinted toward the figure in the shadows, my heart pounding wildly. Sure enough, I was met with a pair of familiar amber eyes. The owner of those eyes saw me too. His expression shifted from disbelief to joy, and he pulled me into his arms with an uncontrollable force. Rongjing buried his face in my neck, his breath quick and heavy. Yang, can I? Before I could answer, he had already found the gland at the back of my neck. His teeth broke the skin, marking me without hesitation. As my consciousness began to fade, I heard the system's voice. Ahem, welcome to the interstellar smut novel world. This time, your main mission is fall in love with the male lead until the universe explodes.